bid for an hour cost at 200,000, 220, 220, 240. At 300,000 and against you in front at 300,000 guineas bid for now and any more on top or below at 320.
Highclere Castle in Hampshire. Family seat of the Earls of Carnarvon for more than 300 years.
On the rail in front at 400,000.
Tattersall's Auctions Newmarket. A tense Lord Carnarvon is hoping for a top price for his prize filly.
Thank you, Jack. And also thank you very much to my...
£400,000, but a drop in the ocean to a man who needs to find £1 million a year to run his house.
In the present market, I think it's a good price.
What now? What happens now?
What happens now? Well, Tattersall's in due course will send me some money and that'll go right the overdraft off. Thank you very much for coming down.
Nobody with their own castle, a 6,000-acre estate, a loyal staff of 85 and a string of thoroughbred racehorses could gracefully complain of want. But in the 1990s, those whose ancestors despised trade must learn the jargon of the marketplace. Assets must be managed, profits maximised. The men in suits, not the coronets, call the shots. Highclere, an impressive Victorian Gothic pile, is at the heart of Lord Carnarvon's problems.
The castle was built in 1840. It was the third Earl, who's over there with the castle painted behind him, who was the Earl that commissioned Charles Barry to design the castle. At the time it was called Highclere House, and it was a very beautiful Georgian house. And along came the Victorians, as only the Victorians could do, and wanted something bigger and grander, and they didn't want to call it Highclere House, it had to be Highclere Castle, which meant you had to castellate it. So huge, big central tower, and Charles Barry refaced the entire Georgian house with Bath stone. And as he was also responsible for designing the Houses of Parliament, you can see the similarities as you drive up to the castle.
Over time, the Bath stone crumbled. So did the family fortunes. In 1923, the estate passed into the hands of Harry's grandfather.
He should never have been painted like this. He looks frightfully stern, doesn't he? And he's painted in his army uniform. But his was an amazing life, as he described himself as the last of the Mohicans. And he was then that Edwardian era that they just lived life to the full. Life was one long party, wine, women and song. And there were people in Highclere all the time. And I think that generation just didn't really think about the future.
Not all the money went on high living. Before that, the fifth Earl bankrolled the search for Tutankhamun's treasure. Perhaps the fabled curse of the Egyptian king was visited on the family. As the years rolled on, a hammer-horror atmosphere of neglect and ruin descended on the castle. When the sixth Earl died, the present Lord Carnarvon was left with huge debts and a castle much in need of repair.
When my grandfather, in the last few years of his life, as he began to get more and more aged, and so the house died with him. And the last few years were ghastly. I mean, it was appalling. And you thought, gosh, I don't really care what happens to the castle. And then as soon as my parents took it over and put the love and the effort and the enthusiasm back into the house, then so, it began to come alive again.
Highclere has up to now been able to steer clear of the well-trodden path from ancestral home to heritage theme park. The castle is open to the public only in the summer months.
Thank you, Liam. Eddie, what do you think of this foal? You wish they were all the same?
I think he's got possibilities, yes.
And not every visitor to the estate is expected to pay their £5 and buy a souvenir pencil.
Just like Mr. Charlton this morning,
We
when
saw
you said,
something
have you got any nice horses? Well, I don't know whether you've got any nice horses.
The Queen is a frequent visitor to the Highclere stables. Lord Carnarvon is her racing manager.
Oh, what's the jockey ride?
Steve Raymond.
Steve Raymond ride a 2-year-old alongside a 3-year-old at level weight. This is Miss Demure, ma'am. The one. She's got a very nice.
The one I thought of buying, isn't
That's
it?
right. Yeah. And she's got a very nice 3-year-old with Chapel Hyam, belongs to Sheikh Mohammed. He's a good walker, this fellow.
He was
This by
placed
Royal
in the
Academy.
Coventry, ma'am.
All right, we'll walk on down.
It's very depressing. I mean, hasn't he got all his foals?
It's a cosy, chummy world of privilege and class. The sovereign, her faithful lord, and several stout pairs of wellies. Tradition bonds the Carnarvon family and their staff too, as benevolent masters and loyal retainers, rather than employers and employees. But the castle is losing money on a grand scale, and there's a feeling that this must change.
Your father guards the estate quite jealously, Harry.
Well, he does in one respect. I mean, he's very protective of not just the family, I think, but you know, everyone who works on the estate. And he's always been like that, and he's fiercely protective of the estate. Maybe protective is better than possessive. It's a worry about what will happen in the future. That everyone who lives here on the estate, as I say, not just the family, you know, so many people's livelihoods are affected by this place, and there's an incredible love of the place from all of us.
Oh dear. Oh no.
Maureen Cummins has been with the family for 27 years. She knows and has cleaned every nook and cranny of the castle.
Well, you know, I'm getting to a state now, my lady, where when you close them, you know, they're looking a bit tattered. Things not to close.
The American-born wife of the present Lord Carnarvon came to Highclere 40 years ago.
I think Lord Carnarvon's grandmother, possibly.
Hers is a never-ending struggle against escalating repair costs.
It's the light as well, because this side's quite good. Well, we'll just have to see whether it's this year or next year. Lord Carnarvon's going to have to win the lottery, I think. I think he will with these, yeah. Family conference. Do the lottery? Well, we'll have to encourage him. Oh, he does. He does? He never fails, yes. Oh, right. He's never got more than 2 numbers so far. He's going to need a few more for that.
The family's great hope for the coming flat season is Lake Coniston, a 4-year-old colt bought for £20,000 and jointly owned by Lord Carnarvon and a syndicate headed by Harry.
Look at this. Look at this, Jeff.
Yeah,
Look at that action.
He's in great form, this horse is.
If the horse does well, he'll win a few thousands in prize money. But more importantly, by the end of the season, they may be able to sell him for perhaps as much as 100 times their original outlay, £2 million.
Looked to me as though he took off with Pat early, I think.
Well, he was definitely...
He definitely was in front earlier than I wanted him to be.
Past the bushes.
These then are the resources: a castle, a park, a loyal staff, title, tradition, dignity and enthusiasm. But in the Britain of the 90s, can the Carnarvons combine all these elements into a profit-making package and keep the flag flying?
Come on in.
Thank you.
Harry's wife Chica runs a private catering business, Highclere Catering. Title opens doors. Cheam, Prince Charles's old prep school, is celebrating its 300th birthday with a dinner for more than 600 people. Chica and Harry, with their friend Tim Howland, are pitching for the catering contract.
We're very close. And actually, you came to our ball 5 years ago, didn't you?
The contract will be made far more lucrative if they can negotiate to supply wine as well as food.
After dinner, do you want to have, I mean, if the school are you're providing the wine, are you?
Yes, we are.
You are, definitely.
We've actually had some wine.
An aristocratic background means a foot in the door, but makes the Arthur Daly hard sell inappropriate. Softly, softly.
Did you cover champagne in that?
Champagne may be coming with the wine. also still got to negotiate that. But perhaps you could mention that in your
yes,
quote as well, could you?
We can give you quite a good price on this. We may be able to give it to you for less than you would be able to get it for.
Harry and Chica failed to clinch the champagne deal.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Yes.
Looks like the labours of Hercules, Maureen.
It's like the Forth Bridge.
How long have you been here?
On and off. I'm in my 27th year. I've done a good 25 years actually in the castle, and I had a couple of years break when the Lord was rather senile, the 6th Earl. Then I came back again to work in the castle. Robert Taylor, the old butler, asked me to come back and help Mrs. Reed, the housekeeper. So I was quite pleased because I missed the castle for a couple of years. So.
Do you remember what it was like when it was lived in permanently, when you first came here?
Oh yes, it was entirely different to what it is now. I mean, it was all more of upstairs and downstairs type of thing. It's the place is much more alive and used to what it should be, and its capabilities have widened.
To take full advantage of these capabilities, Harry and Chica are hosting their first medieval banquet, complete with serving wenches, minstrels and court jester. It's to be an office outing for 50 computer salespeople from Basingstoke. Not an undertaking for the squeamish or inexperienced.
I wish there was a lot more days like this. It's certainly, but these are the days that really make a big difference to the castle, and you know, that's what we've got to try and achieve, hopefully over the next year or so, getting more days which are this much turnover.
Right, nice smile, girls. Gather together a bit. I've got to be quick before we go and pour some drinks. So.
I'll go and fetch my hat. What do you think your grandfather would have thought, Harry? If he saw
It would have been horrifying.
But this used to be a dining room, didn't you say?
Well, many years ago it used to be the dining room, yeah, I think. But he wouldn't have. This wouldn't have been for him at all. No, Highclere was a family home, and only for his friends. And he loved entertaining. Gosh, I mean, if he'd known that you could have a banquet here that looked like this, he probably would have had them all the time.
It's doubtful whether the 6th Earl knew many people from Basingstoke. The firm is celebrating last year's turnover of £60 million in the only way possible.
Are they normally this noisy?
No. This is something I've never experienced at Highclere. It just isn't. You know, it's something completely different. Far be it from me. Yeah, they do. Yeah, and I suppose that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Just you?
It's just me.
Really short straw, did you?
Oh, no, I don't want to go back out there. I really don't.
Why? What happened?
Well, there's rather a lot of food on the floor. Rather a lot. Which is squashed grapes, squashed bananas, squashed everything. I'm glad I don't have to do the cleaning. They are very rowdy, as you can hear, probably. I've had many offers tonight of what I'm doing later. And I think if they weren't so drunk, I might take a few of them up on it.
Well, there's much damage?
No, just that little wine spillage and that's it. No great problems. I hope.
So you think this might be a regular occurrence?
I don't know, really. It's not really suitable for this kind of place, not this kind of effort. Needs must when the devil drives.
So somebody's thrown something at it.
What is it, potato?
It looks like some fruit. See what I can do about that. We'll look at Arvin sees it.
The banquet brought in a mere £5,000 and left everyone feeling there must be more dignified ways of paying for new curtains.
The runners, 12 of them, for our first event here.
Newmarket, the opening day of the flat racing season. When he bought Lake Coniston, Harry was risking other people's money on a hunch. Today, Lake Coniston's first outing, he'll find out whether he has a winning thoroughbred or a pig in a poke. The £12,000 prize is mere oats and vets money. Lake Coniston must show well throughout the season if Harry's hunch is to be turned into the hoped-for millions.
I don't think we wouldn't be normal if we weren't a little nervous. Everybody. A lot of anticipation. First run of the year. Horse looks great. But it's very infectious, you know, the nerves. We travel around all the owners.
Always in the first race, you've just got to hope that he's, you know, he's really fit and tight and well, and you know, we think he is. But there's always, you know, you've just got to wait and see. Really.
Well, he's favourite. He was favourite on Radio 4 this morning.
He is favourite, and he should be favourite on his form. And if things go well, one likes to think that he should win, but racing doesn't work like that.
Away pretty well to over on the far side, Lake Coniston very quickly the stride from Wind Machine and Triple Joy up there as well. Double Blue is being hard ridden in the early stages to keep with them, and Welshmist takes up a common position just behind them.
Moving very well.
Behind them, Welshmist in the centre. Taken up back in the field with Wonton, then Sim Bon Bon, followed by Branston Abbey and Hard to Figure as they run down past halfway, and it's still Wind Machine showing the way. From Lake Coniston the far side, a length and a half further back, then Double Blue the near side. Welshmist is in the centre, boxing on now, taking up back in the ruck, and then over on the far side of the group is Triple Joy. Running up now towards the two furlong mark at Lake Coniston. Go on, Coniston! Go on! Go on! Go on, mate! Go on! Go on! Go on! Go on, you good thing! What a performance! What a performance!
Go on, old boy.
Go on!
Congratulations. Congratulations, everyone. Well done.
Oh, your earphones.
Despite success on the racecourse, it was clear that radical changes had to be made at Highclere. A stately home, country park and medieval banquet business is no place for amateurs, however enthusiastic. The Carnarvons are bringing in a professional manager, a man in a suit. There will be victors and victims.
We'll just wait and see how the land lies, and hopefully we'll have him trained within a few months. It's just one of these things. You've just got to go with the flow, basically. I'm very adaptable. It's just if I feel that he's doing anything major to affect things with the workings in the castle, we'll just, you know, put him right, basically.
A clay pigeon shoot between the British and the French is being held at the castle, and the guns are out.
Girls, please.
And for the staff, the word is the new manager has just arrived, and there's going to be sweeping changes. Adrian Wiley's first port of call is the castle's guides.
I would like to personally welcome everyone who manages to get to Highclere, because I don't think we've at all been consistent in when we open and how we open, and I think that anybody who actually arrives on an open day must be congratulated. Things are going to change. In my opinion, they're going to change for the better. We're obviously looking towards, based on last year's performance, 25,000. I'd be very disappointed if we can't make that 35 to 40,000 in the first year. We should be having 140 to 160,000 visitors a year, of which 50,000 of those are going to be going around the house. And that is my personal objective, and an objective that you need to be aware of.
Funny language. I think that I have a daughter who's married to a Frenchman. I can't believe it. I can't speak a word of the language.
For Maureen, the housekeeper, this is the first time she's had to take direct orders from anyone outside the Carnarvon family.
Straight up. If you could remove those. What I want to do is remove anything that makes people's vision focus on the wrong things. And therefore, if there's something that's carpet that's worn or a book that's tatty, unless it's a particular book that has a relevance, if we could actually remove that. So I think that book is certainly something which detracts from the overall experience. Now look at those views, aren't they absolutely stunning? Absolutely stunning. Now I have learned, Maureen, that the temple up there is called Heaven's Gate?
Yes, it's a folly.
Right. Again, I think those baskets, unless they're of historical significance, they should go.
No.
They look tatty. Again, there's no relevance in this room, so we'll close this room. In other words, unless there's relevance, so if one's doing a guided tour, even I would have difficulty saying, well, look, here's a lovely bathroom, but that room you can say the Queen used or whatever.
Right. Yeah. We've got some basic good ideas. If they come into practice, well then we should all benefit. He's supposed to be putting me into a role of house manager. Whether that'll work or not, I don't really know.
So it's a promotion?
Oh, change of title, I'd call it.
The sales side of life at Highclere has been taken on a very sort of passive role, and everything has been done through the old boy network rather than a competent marketing strategy. And they haven't had anybody who single-handedly has just set his objectives and gone for it. So it's the difference between employing the family to have a go at something and against actually having someone who's totally accountable and responsible, who quite clearly, if he doesn't achieve what he sets out to achieve, then you can hack him off, which you actually can't do. And of course, Harry would be most upset if one said, right, Harry, well, I'm saying I'm cutting you off from the family because you haven't succeeded, whereas quite clearly, I'm in there, my neck's in the noose, and if I don't produce the goods, then they just merely boot me out, and I think it's as simple as that.
Have you talked to the guides about revising the opening hours and
Yes, I have done.
the guided tour?
Yes, I have done. I want to actually talk through with you the implications of that, and hopefully...
Could you give us a bit of information on that?
With your approval. I am now convinced that this is, in fact, the correct way forward, and what I'd like to recommend, therefore, is we reverse the route. So the arrival story will be guests arriving in Castle Peace in the normal way, and they will all trundle off down to the back door, which in fact will be the visitor arrival area, and they're then welcomed into the downstairs area, where there will, of course, the first thing that hit them is that wonderful smell of cooking and the tea rooms. And we would then go upstairs on a tour that would take perhaps 3 or 4 of the rooms out of commission. Again,
upstairs?
Yes.
Yeah.
They then go downstairs, and then the product, each step the visitors take becomes better and better and better, whereas before it was arriving through the front door and going through the tradesman's door, and therefore everywhere they go, each step becomes more and more enchanting.
Well, that sounds very, very interesting and well worth, don't you think so, Donna?
It was very exciting.
My idea for the press day focuses very much on, as you know, press need motivating, and the most wonderful opportunity I felt was available to us, which would be, if my lord, you'd be agreeable to presenting yourself on a horse.
On a horse? I don't think I'd be on a horse.
Now, Harry said that you were an excellent rider, but you hadn't ridden for a year, and I just...
That hasn't happened for a while.
I think that'd be going beyond the...
That in itself would be such a wonderful photo opportunity. obviously unfair of me to just drop it in your lap immediately, but if you felt it was quite out of the question, then I'd work on something.
Think of something else, possibly.
Something
With the horse.
They exit through the Silver Ring via the gates.
Ladies' Day at Royal Ascot. Having won on its last 2 outings, Harry's horse, Lake Coniston, is going for his 3rd win in a row and a top prize of £33,000.
A bit more beef, isn't it?
Outside of classic races, I think trying to win races at Royal Ascot is the ultimate. Having a horse like Lake Coniston is, the biggest thrill of all, but it's very nerve-wracking. He's odds-on favourite today, and as we all know, anything can happen. There's no such thing as a racing certainty, but we're all a bit nervous. But hopefully he'll come through. Whatever happens, we pray he comes through the race in one piece, because the ground is a bit fast. But we won't use that as an excuse yet.
What I'd like to do, and the purpose of this meeting, is to go through all the various events that we've actually got for the next month.
Back at Highclere, there's only a month before the castle opens for the summer season. Adrian has assembled his newly created management team for the first time. There are problems of communication.
And this then will become a monthly ritual. Last Tuesday of every month, 9 o'clock meeting in the castle.
It means that we're bringing everyone in specially. Couldn't be better for the last Wednesday? Because you're not open on Tuesday.
I think it's probably worth it, because I think it would be quite a useful opportunity to actually...
It's a very useful thing. I was just thinking if it was a Wednesday, it would say they're coming in specially, that was all. They'd be here ready then to open up and go.
I take your point. It's up to you.
Well, the only comment I have on the Wednesday is I've got to lay the table ready for the opening on the Wednesday, unless you're having it somewhere else.
We can always have it in the tea room,
This would be a mobile location. Keep it with a Tuesday. If it's a
I
problem,
don't mind.
then we'll change it.
It doesn't worry me at all, because I'm here anyway.
Yeah. I'm very keen that we use, to communicate with each other, a radio interway system, so that each of us can relate to each other very easily and very quickly. And I was delighted to gather that we have got a radio communication system.
No, we haven't.
We haven't?
We haven't.
So the system that you have is what?
Not available to us.
Oh, right, I understood that, speaking to Lord Carnarvon, that it was, and that it would provide the sort of radio communication system that did exist, but...
If we can buy it or acquire it, yes. At the moment, it's not ours.
I thought it was our property.
Possibly might be able to acquire it, but at the moment it's not ours, and it's not available to us in that particular circumstance.
Right. But one way or the other, whether we buy this mystery piece of equipment or whether we don't buy this mystery piece of equipment, there will be a radio communication system, because although this year, again, we're going to be reasonably under in terms of numbers, in the future there will always be communications between the two, because in the future all the events that we do put on, we will be taking care, for example, of the car parking.
Just got beat, I think. I don't know.
I don't know, where are you?
It's very, very close. It's very, very close.
He's raced on his own, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just done it on the line, isn't it?
Here are the results of the 4th race, the Cork and Orrery Stakes. First, number 7, So Factual. Second, number 1, Lake Coniston. Third, number 12, Narita. And the 4th horse, number 8, Western Prince.
Close.
The distance is ahead and 3 lengths.
I could see that coming.
3 lengths.
They started to hang.
Pulled the whip through.
Yeah.
If you'd gone the other side, would have definitely won, because it would have helped him along, you know. Ah, we'll be back, don't worry.
Have a good rest of your day. Right.
Bye-bye, Harry, we're going home. Well, it's easy in the traffic.
That's true.
Never mind, it's a minor setback.
It's a very minor setback.
That's right. But it's Royal Ascot.
Rats.
too hot today, because if it's too hot, they won't leave Wimbledon. But if it's cool, they will leave Wimbledon.
Lord Carnarvon is up early. From today, the castle will be open to the public for 3 months, and the crucial test of Adrian Wylie's new reforms.
Is that a new venture for you, Lord? I'm giving a sort of professional, stately home marketing.
Yes, I think he's looked after Harwood, and he's been in charge of a big hospital, and he's been in charge of a big hotel, and his ideas are well worth trying. I'm sure the signing is much better than it was before, and we're going to, hopefully, people might leave their television and get a bit of fresh air today and miss Wimbledon.
Now, one of the things that we were going to do here yesterday, again, in last preparations, was more than anything to create a bit of colour in the courtyard, because I think that is important. And I was thinking more in terms of the traditional hanging baskets, which His Lordship felt was really quite unacceptable, apart from the fact he hates hanging baskets. Not that I was to be aware of that. So within moments he had disappeared. We'd summoned the van, Leslie and the troops, and we've come back with this creation. And my anxiety, of course, is the fact that it's here, and the fact that we're going to leave it out here on the basis that absolutely nobody will dream of pinching anything. So from my point of view, looking at the bottom line, it's the turnover that matters, not the fact that one's gone through half the stock, half of it which been nicked. So.
Have you managed to get hold of your radios?
No, I haven't actually on that one there. Leslie's failed me. He's given me a long list of excuses. He said the Home Office have given him strict instructions that not to be issued and given to anyone, although quite clearly in the past we have used it for house opening. He's fraught it with reasons why it can't be available for police, radio links and so on and so forth. So what we're actually have agreed is he's going to get rid of his radios and I'm going to get a new set. And that's where we are at the present. But he's failed to give me the actual telephone number so that I can actually speak to the so-called people that he has, who's issued with these radios. But like everything else, I took counsel from Albert, who informs me that the radios are really no good at all, that they're about 100 years old and quite frankly fit for the dustbin. So we shall then return the compliment by when he wants to use them for the shooting season by saying, no, I'm sorry. These have been allocated on a strictly controlled basis.
Horse racing that way, Ella. You want to go that way today? We want to go this way. Down the years, they've always had the same motto, and it's Old Norman French. Je servrai means one only will I serve.
It's the view that we have here, and we have to work extra hard.
They flower and fruit at the same time.
Yes, this is one we
That's about 8 years old. 7 to 8 years old. It's probably about...
means one only will I serve. Now, when the present Earl asked his father, what does it mean? He said, so the servants know who's the bloody boss.
Thank you very much.
Not at all. Lovely having you with us.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
How's it been going?
Come and see what they bought.
These the old stables.
Yeah. A lot of it's gone already, you see. But all this has been left behind by people who've gone to do something else, go and have tea or go around the garden. They didn't want to. They saw them when they arrived, and they didn't want someone else to have them before they come back. So they buy them first and leave them here in the cool. So it works quite well. You know, I mean, for our first day, we're very, very pleased.
Excellent.
I suppose looking at what we've done today, various areas have sparkled, but what we've got to do is get in place a system whereby, if you looked at, say, for example, the tea rooms today, for all intents and purposes, if you said to Anne, what do you think of today? Great, it's been wonderful, we've been working at capacity, we've taken £520, isn't that brilliant? Quite frankly, no, it isn't brilliant, because it's taken us 7 staff to do it. It's taken us almost a capacity of working flat out. The figures that I have today are punitive, and what we've got to gear ourselves up for is next year and the future, where, quite frankly, this will represent 1/10 of the visitors that we are expecting to do. The system, therefore, is not in place. The team is, therefore, not in place. And we're going to get a situation whereby, you know, another 100 people on today's performance, quite frankly, and they'll all be keeling over, and the entire staff will go off on sick leave and start developing back pains, and we will be back to square one.
Besides looking after his estate, the Earl of Carnarvon regularly sits in the House of Lords,
The Earl of Carnarvon.
with over 600 other hereditary
Is
peers.
he aware that the A34, the 3.5 miles between Tot Hill and Newbury, is the only single carriageway between the south of Spain and Scotland?
He has a long-standing commitment to transport and planning issues, and is a supporter of the proposed extension of the A34 Newbury bypass, which will run near Highclere. Not everyone approves.
I think one of the advantages that Lord Carnarvon has is that obviously his loyal and devoted staff will summons, and he will have gamekeepers and literally villagers with their pitchforks ready to do battle if necessary. I don't envisage that will happen. I think it is just an unnecessary anxiety, but there are so many. The lunatic fringe is more and more obvious now.
Friends of the Earth have planned a protest against the road on the same afternoon as Adrian's first celebrity wedding. He's taken extra precautions by closing the castle early and doubling security. His next plan of action is to infiltrate the enemy.
Have you just arrived?
Yeah.
Right, we've just headed off for the stunt.
Right.
And it's just 5 minutes walk out that way.
What's the stunt?
We're all forming a giant circle as a no entry sign with red card, and we're going to get a visual picture of that from a helicopter. Who are you with?
Carlton.
Great. Hi.
Hello. Hello.
Start getting your position in the circle. Red's to the bottom and the top, and the white's in the middle. Then when we see the helicopter, we'll try and get all the pieces of paper above your heads so as we get the full no entry sign completed. Look at that sun or something.
I think the most important thing about this afternoon, there's been 2 of us here representing our delight and pleasure at the thought of the A34. The other gentleman, I don't know where he's gone, but he seemed to me to be a very brave man, because the last words he said to me was, come on then, let's go and start making our protest. I said, not bloody likely.
Darjeeling, then 5 teas, 2 flat chucks, 2 chocolate cakes and 1 tea cake.
A month into the season, but all is not well. Anne Collins and her tea room staff are unhappy. Adrian has cut their overtime.
How's the day been, Anne? Match your expectations of it, or?
Yeah. A few little niggly problems has got to be sorted. They'll be sorted. It is completely different now, whereas before I could go away and I could talk to Chica, put something to her, we'd think about it, it could be discussed. Now you feel as though it's very difficult to make a decision for yourself. You know you've got to go to Adrian, you know you've got to go in and sort things out. Although he's saying to me, you are the manager and you are to do this, you are to do that, you are to get it to how you want it. But you know, there's always that feeling that he's there.
Now Adrian wants to cut staff and is threatening to introduce self-service in place of the waitresses.
We've done an analysis which quite clearly has shown us that the amount of drinks we're selling is absolutely marginal. What we're actually charging for drinks is a complete and utter nonsense. Again, no system is in place. So a pint of beer anywhere else in the Empire is costing £1.80 to £2. Up in the north, of course, a loft full of pigeons, we're only paying £1.50. But here we are, Highclere Castle, pint of bitter, £1. What an excellent opportunity that is. Fortunately, we've done nothing to promote that we have a full licence, and therefore very few people have actually taken up our drink licence.
One of the best outfits in the area, I must say.
What?
Absolutely wonderful.
Film. That is what you need on film. You need people like that to say this is the best in the area. This is what we've got is unique, which is wonderful. The customers love it. And now he wants to take it all away from me, which I find very, very sad. Very sad.
The family are also unhappy. They're having second thoughts about the back door.
We are very worried about not opening the front of the house to the public when they arrive. This seems to be it's a problem for us, that we don't like the idea of the public not coming through the front door. I mean, both Lady Carnarvon and I feel strongly that we must go back to going through the front door. There's something unattractive about the house with the front door shut when people arrive.
Yeah.
When you come to the castle, you want to be welcomed, and there's no welcoming system. It doesn't work, obviously, the welcoming system at the back door.
Obviously, I would like to persuade you otherwise. If it is your wish, then obviously that's something we will do. But if I can, in my defence, there has been the occasional problem created simply by the fact that there are key odd members of staff who are still not supportive of the new system, and they're just about to be weeded out. The last month's been a nightmare, in as much that what I'm supposed to be doing I haven't been able to do because of the recognition that I've come to recognise is that staff, given an instruction, for example, I've asked Albert to make sure that there is a man on visitor reception until 6. A quarter to 6, he actually closes up visitor reception and moves down to close the gate in the garden so that the deer don't ravage Lord Carnarvon's beautiful secret garden. In reality, after a week of this, I discover that, of course, Colin likes to get home and have his mint julep or what have you. It's been a very taxing day for him, and Albert sort of stepped in. Oh dear boy, I'll do that for you. Leave it to me. I'll close the gates, and you buzz off as usual.
I'll do the gates. Don't worry.
In many ways, it's very charming, but how the hell are you supposed to be creating an effective, efficient management team if in reality they do exactly what they want to do because they've always done it this way?
Newmarket, July Cup, £100,000 to the winner. If Lake Coniston triumphs, the £20,000 investment in him could be worth millions.
That's it for set. Understar was all over the 1995 July Cup, and it's the outside of Bill Street who sets the early pace. She's blazing off here from Lake Coniston, the favourite, also matching her for pace early. Fard comes next, followed then by Heart Lake, and after these comes Home Magic. Sagea further back with Piccolo, and then at the back of the field we have So Factual, who's racing company with Owington. And now it's the favourite Lake Coniston who's gone to the front. Lake Coniston leads a length clear 2.5 furlongs left to go, and it's Lake Coniston. Still going well in the lead here from Millstream on the far side. Owington's getting going just a bit of the last, the quick and fast next.
Go on, Pat! Go on! Go on, Pat! Go on! Go on! Go on! He's going to win it! He is! He's going to win it! Where is he?
Excellent. By a mile.
Well done.
Wonderful.
Oh,
great.
What I wanted to do perhaps at this is to really have one final look at what we've actually achieved in terms of the tea rooms this year. And I think that quite clearly you have at times been at capacity. And we therefore need to be looking at what we're going to be doing that we can accommodate the 70,000 visitors that we're going to be having next year. Now, from my point of view, I don't think we can continue with the system that we are doing on the basis that we're having, and your forms quite clearly show that, the number of staff that are on.
It is staff consuming, I agree with that. You do have to have the staff to be able to maintain a standard. But then not actually knowing how many people you are going to get in. Like if you've got a coach coming in, you can actually staff, or you've got 3 coaches coming in, you can staff up to that. But sometimes it's hit and miss whether you've got the right amount of staff.
But I think the point that I'm saying is you can't employ 9 staff.
It's such a shame, in my opinion, to lose something that is unique, that it is so different.
But again, there is always an alternative that will work and be as equally as impressive to the visitors. And at the end of the day, that's the decision that we've had to sort of make. And I think that these figures quite clearly show the system at the present just simply, apart from being very costly, would just literally not work at all.
Highclere is closed for the season. Lake Coniston has been sold for over £2 million. The next time the tea room opens, there will be self-service. As family and castle are nudged towards profit in the next century, it remains to be seen how many of the staff and how much of their loyalty will be going with them.
I think we have a staff here that are so wonderfully loyal to my ma and my pa, and that I hope that the changes aren't going to be so dramatic that they're going to affect too many people who are involved with the castle. I think that if Adrian can show in the next 6 months to a year, can really show some dramatic changes, as I'm sure he will, then it'll give them the enthusiasm and the confidence to go on and to hopefully see in a couple of years' time the castle having turned the corner and making a profit.
The most important thing and what will happen at Highclere Castle is it will become successful, it will be financially profitable, and I think that's in everybody's interest, and I don't see anybody who doesn't have that philosophy wishing to be part of it.
And if it doesn't become successful?
I should probably go down to the lake and throw myself in.